The shoes weighed nothing in my palm. Pale blue cotton, smaller than my thumb. I stood frozen in our bedroom, the half-packed suitcase sprawled open on our bed like a confession. Liz? Have you seen my navy tie? Owen's voice echoed up the stairwell of our craftsman home, the one we'd stretched our savings to buy 3 years ago. The one with the extra bedroom we'd painted sunshine yellow, then repainted gray when the fertility treatments failed for the 3rd time. I couldn't answer him. My throat had closed around something hard and jagged. These weren't just any baby shoes. They were handmade, expensive, the kind you'd give as a gift, the kind my husband had no reason to own. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, steady and unhurried. Owen had always moved through life with the easy confidence of someone who'd never had the ground disappear beneath them. Until now, I'd found that steadiness comforting. "Found it," he called out, his voice closer. "It was in my—" Owen appeared in the doorway, his sentence cutting off when he saw me standing there. 6'2", broad-shouldered, with those hazel eyes that still made my heart skip after 11 years of marriage. He was dressed for the airport in dark jeans and a button-down, his weekend bag for shorter trips slung over his shoulder. In 3 days, we would have been celebrating our anniversary. "What's wrong?" he asked, his eyes moving from my face to my hand. I extended my palm, the tiny shoes resting there like evidence at a crime scene. "I was packing your suitcase," I said, my voice eerily calm. "For your business trip. A peculiar thing happens when your world shatters." Time fragments. Details sharpen. I noticed the twitch at the corner of Owen's left eye. The way his fingers tightened around the strap of his bag. The slight step backward he took before catching himself. "Liz, I can explain. Were you ever going to tell me?" My voice was so quiet that he leaned forward to hear me. "About your child?" 11 years earlier, the New York City summer pressed against us like a hot, damp hand as we stumbled out of the reception venue. My wedding dress clung to my back, and Owen's tuxedo jacket was draped over his arm. We'd been married for exactly 9 hours, and already I'd broken one of his family's heirloom champagne flutes, and he'd stepped on the train of my dress, tearing the delicate lace. And yet, we couldn't stop laughing. "Mrs. Foster," he said, tipping my chin up for a kiss as we waited for our cab. "I believe we just committed a serious crime. What's that?" "Leaving our own wedding while the party's still going." I grinned up at him, my new husband, still not quite believing he was real. "Let them eat cake. I have better plans for you." The cab driver pretended not to hear us giggling in the back seat. My shoes kicked off, Owen's hand warm on my bare knee. We were 25 and 28, fresh from grad school. Certain the world was laid out before us like a banquet. "I'll give you a baby by next Christmas," Owen whispered against my ear, and I felt a shiver of anticipation and joy. "Promise?" I murmured back, believing in promises then. "Cross my heart," he said, and pulled me closer. It was almost too perfect at first. We found jobs we loved. Owen at a consulting firm that specialized in healthcare systems, me teaching art at an alternative high school in Brooklyn. We rented a walk-up with crooked floors and a view of a brick wall, and filled it with flea market furniture and art from my college friends. When we decided to start trying for a baby after 2 years of marriage, I stopped taking my birth control pills with a ceremony that made Owen roll his eyes fondly. "What?" I'd said, flushing the last pill down the toilet. "This is a big moment. We're officially trying to make a human." "Come here," he'd said, pulling me toward our bed. "Let's get started." But months passed and then a year. My periods came with cruel regularity. I started tracking my temperature, researching fertility foods, standing on my head after sex. Owen found me one night, sobbing on the bathroom floor, surrounded by negative pregnancy tests like fallen soldiers. "Maybe we should see someone," he said gently, sliding down to sit beside me. "A specialist." I turned my face into his shoulder. "What if something's wrong with me?" His arms tightened around me. "Then we'll deal with it, together, like we do everything." The specialist was a woman with kind eyes and unflinching honesty. After tests and more tests, she sat us down in her office. Premature ovarian failure, she told me, and I felt Owen's hand grip mine tighter. Your ovarian reserve is severely diminished for someone your age. What does that mean? Owen asked while I sat in numb silence. It means conceiving naturally will be very difficult, she said. Not impossible, but the odds aren't in your favor. I'd recommend we discuss IVF sooner rather than later. Later that night, after we'd gone home and I'd retreated to bed, pulling the covers over my head, Owen crawled in beside me. He wrapped his body around mine, his chest against my back. It doesn't matter, he whispered fiercely. We'll do IVF. We'll adopt. We'll figure it out. I didn't marry you for your ovaries, Liz. I turned in his arms, tears streaming down my face. But you want children. You've always wanted them. I want you more, he said, wiping my tears away with his thumbs. Always you first. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? 3 rounds of IVF over 2 years. 3 failures. Each one more devastating than the last. The hormones made me volatile and bloated. The procedures were painful and invasive. The cost decimated our savings. The last embryo transfer had seemed promising. I'd felt different, more tired, my breasts tender. When I started bleeding 10 days later, I locked myself in our bathroom for hours. Owen eventually picked the lock and found me sitting in the empty bathtub, staring at nothing. We can't do this anymore, I told him hollowly. I can't, he nodded slowly. Okay, we'll take a break. Not a break, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. We're done with fertility treatments. If we want a family, we need to look at other options. We talked about adoption. We even met with an agency. But something had changed between us. A distance I couldn't cross no matter how I tried. Owen started traveling more for work. Week-long trips that stretched into 10 days, 2 weeks. We sold our Brooklyn apartment and bought the house in Connecticut, telling ourselves the commute was worth it for the space, the quiet, the future we still might build. The night we moved in, Owen found me standing in what would have been the nursery. We could make this your studio, he suggested, wrapping his arms around me from behind. You've always wanted a dedicated space for your art. I leaned back against him, trying to recapture the feeling of complete trust I'd once had. That's a good idea, but I didn't set up a studio. The room remained empty, a void at the center of our home. Last Christmas, Owen gave me a necklace with a small diamond pendant. It's beautiful, I said, letting him fasten it around my neck. We were sitting by our tree, a modest Fraser fir that I'd decorated alone while he was in Chicago. I know things have been... He hesitated. I'm gone too much. I'm going to cut back on travel. Be home more. I looked at him. This man I'd loved for a decade and saw the sincerity in his eyes. I'd like that. He pulled me close, kissing my forehead. Next year will be better. I promise. Another promise. I wanted so badly to believe it. But 3 weeks later, he was in Seattle for 10 days. Then Boston. Then a month-long project in Toronto that he'd somehow never mentioned until the week before he left. When he was home, he was distracted. Always on his phone. Working late in his home office with the door closed, I told myself it was work stress. That all marriages go through phases. That the distance between us was temporary. I started painting again, small watercolors at first, then larger canvases. Abstract emotions in vivid colors. My art students noticed the change. You're different this semester, Ms. Foster, one of them said. You seem more, I don't know, alive, I'd smiled. Not telling her that I was painting my pain, my loneliness, my slow dawning realization that something fundamental had broken in my marriage. When Owen announced he needed to go to Philadelphia for a week, I'd offered to pack for him. A gesture of reconciliation. An attempt to close the gap between us. I hadn't expected to find tiny blue shoes wrapped in tissue paper, tucked into the inner pocket of his suitcase. Liz, please. Let me explain. Owen took a step toward me, his hands raised as if approaching a wild animal. I took an equal step back. How old? He blinked, confused. What? Your baby. How old? Owen's face seemed to collapse in on itself. He looked suddenly older, the lines around his eyes deeper than I'd realized. 16 months. he said quietly. The room tilted. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, the tiny shoes still clutched in my palm. 16 months, I repeated. The math wasn't difficult. So while I was setting up my first gallery show, you were… What? Playing house with someone else? Starting the family you couldn't have with me? It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, Owen. My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. Tell me about your secret child and the woman you've been lying to me about for… What? Over 2 years now? He sank down on the chair across from me, dropping his weekend bag on the floor. Her name is Megan, he said, and I flinched at the tenderness in his voice. We met in Toronto. The project there was real, but it went differently than I expected. Differently how? She was one of the hospital administrators. We worked closely together. I wasn't looking for anything to happen, Liz. You have to believe that. I laughed, a harsh sound that scraped my throat. I don't have to believe anything you say ever again. Owen closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, there were tears there. We were both working late. We got dinner, then drinks. I told her about you, about our situation. She listened. It had been so long since anyone just listened to me. And I suppose you fell into bed with her because she was such a good listener. The bitterness in my voice was unfamiliar, even to me. It was one night. I came home to you feeling sick with guilt. I was going to tell you everything, but then what? Your show. You were so excited about it, happier than I'd seen you in years. I couldn't ruin that for you. I decided it was a mistake I'd never repeat, something I'd take to my grave. I shook my head, disbelieving. And then she got pregnant, Owen nodded miserably. She called me 3 months later. Said she wanted to keep the baby, but I didn't have to be involved if I didn't want to be. How noble of her, I spat out. Liz, please. This isn't her fault. No, it's yours. I hurled the baby shoes at him. They bounced harmlessly off his chest, landing on the floor between us. All those trips to Toronto, to Philadelphia. Were you with her? With your child? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. What's his name? I asked, suddenly needing to know everything. Her, Owen said softly. Emma. A tidal wave of pain crashed over me. While I'd been sleeping alone in our bed, my husband had been holding his daughter, singing her lullabies, watching her take her first steps, all the things we'd dreamed of doing together. Do you love her? I asked, surprised by my own calmness. Megan! Owen looked at me with anguish in his eyes. I love my daughter. That's not what I asked. I don't know, he admitted. It's complicated. We've been trying to figure things out. What's best for Emma? And where do I fit into these arrangements? Or was I just the wife you came home to between visits with your real family? He flinched. You are my family, Liz. You've been my family for 11 years. And yet you've been living a double life for almost 2 of those years. I stood up, needing to move, to put distance between us. Were you ever going to tell me? Owen picked up the baby shoes from the floor, holding them with a gentleness that broke something inside me. I've been trying to find the courage, he said. Megan's been pushing me to make a decision. She wants us to be a proper family. For Emma's sake. The implications hung in the air between us. I walked to the window, looking out at our backyard. The garden I'd planted last spring. The patio where we'd hosted a dinner party just last month. Owen's arm around my waist as we said goodbye to our friends. The perfect couple in their perfect home. All of it a lie. So this business trip? I asked, still looking out the window. I'm going to see them, Owen admitted. Megan said. She said I need to choose. That it isn't fair to any of us to keep living like this. I turned back to face him. This stranger I'd shared a bed with for over a decade. And have you? Chosen? His silence was deafening after he left, because of course he still left, mumbling something about needing time to think, about not wanting to leave things with Megan in limbo. I moved through our house like a ghost. In his dresser, I found a phone I'd never seen before, unlocked, full of pictures of a dark-haired baby girl with Owen's eyes and someone else's smile. Videos of her laughing, taking wobbly steps, smearing birthday cake on her face. In his office, behind a row of finance books he knew I'd never touch, I found a framed photo of Owen with a woman, Megan, and their daughter. His arm was around her waist, exactly the way he'd held me countless times. They were on a beach somewhere, all three of them squinting into the sun, laughing. A family portrait. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I methodically went through our home, gathering evidence of the life Owen had been leading without me. Birthday card signed Love M&E, a child's drawing with "To Daddy" scrawled across the top in an adult's handwriting. A small collection of children's books with inscriptions on the inside covers. For Emma, on your first Christmas. Love, Daddy. Last Christmas, when he'd given me the diamond necklace and promised to be home more. I gathered everything and spread it out on our dining table, a museum exhibit of betrayal. Then I called my sister. Cassie? My voice cracked on her name. I need you to come over. She must have heard something in my tone because she didn't ask questions. I'm on my way. While I waited, I opened a bottle of wine and sat at the table with my evidence, trying to pinpoint the exact moment my marriage had died. Was it the night Owen met Megan? The moment he decided not to tell me about their encounter? The first time he held his daughter? Or had it been dying for years, through each failed IVF cycle, each quiet dinner, each night I pretended not to notice him slipping out of bed to sleep in the guest room? By the time Cassie arrived, the numbness had worn off, and I was sobbing, great heaving cries that seemed to come from the deepest part of me. Jesus, Liz. What happened? Cassie dropped her purse and rushed to my side, her arm around my shoulders. Then her eyes fell on the table. What is all this? Owen has a daughter, I managed between sobs. A baby. With another woman. Cassie froze, her arm still around me. What? I pointed to the photos, the baby shoes I'd retrieved from where Owen had left them. 16 months old, I said. Her name is Emma. That motherfucker, Cassie breathed, and the raw fury in her voice was oddly comforting. I'll kill him. I swear to God I will kill him with my bare hands. Despite everything, I laughed, a watery hiccup of a sound. Get in line. Cassie pulled out a chair and sat beside me, her hand gripping mine. Tell me everything, so I did. The whole sordid story, from finding the shoes to Owen's halting confession. By the time I finished, the bottle of wine was empty. He's with them now, I concluded. His other family. What are you going to do? Cassie asked, her eyes full of worry. I looked around our kitchen, at the life we'd built. I don't know. I can't stay here. Come home with me. Jason's away on business. You can have the guest room as long as you need it. I nodded, too exhausted to argue. I need to pack some things. I'll help you. As we moved through the house, gathering clothes and toiletries, my essential medications, my sketchbooks and a few art supplies, I felt like I was preparing for exile. Or escape. Should you leave him a note? Cassie asked as we headed for the door. I paused, thinking about it. No, I said finally. Let him wonder for a change. We left the evidence spread out on the dining table. A silent accusation awaiting his return. Cassie's guest room became my sanctuary for the next 3 days. I called in sick to school claiming a stomach virus. I turned off my phone after the 20th call from Owen, each voicemail more desperate than the last. Liz, please call me back. I'm so sorry. I'm coming home tonight. Please be there? We need to talk. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, just tell me you're okay. I wasn't okay. I wasn't anything. I existed in a strange limbo, sleeping fitfully, eating only when Cassie insisted, spending hours staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my marriage, looking for signs I'd missed. On the 3rd day, I dragged myself into the shower, letting the hot water pound against my skin until it turned pink. I dressed in clothes Cassie had washed for me, combed my wet hair, and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman who stared back at me looked older, hollowed out. But her eyes were clear. I have to go back, I told Cassie over the breakfast she'd made me. Not to stay. To confront him, she frowned. Are you sure? I can come with you. I shook my head. This is between me and Owen. Call me the second you're done, she insisted. Promise me. I promise. The drive back to my house, our house, took 40 minutes. I spent every second rehearsing what I would say to him, the accusations I would hurl, the questions I needed answered. But when I pulled into the driveway and saw his car already there, all my carefully prepared speeches evaporated. I sat in my car for several minutes, gathering my courage. Then I walked up to my front door, used my key, and stepped into the aftermath of my life. Owen was sitting at the dining table, still covered with the evidence of his betrayal. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same clothes he'd left in 3 days ago. He jerked to his feet when he heard the door. "Liz," he breathed, his voice ragged. "Thank God, I've been going out of my mind. Have you?" I asked, setting my purse down on the console table. My voice was steady, detached. "I thought you'd be too busy with your other family to notice I was gone." He winced. "I deserve that?" "You deserve a lot worse." I moved into the living room, not wanting to get too close to him. I perched on the edge of the sofa, my back straight, hands folded in my lap. "Did you make your choice?" Owen ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Liz, I never wanted to hurt you. That's not an answer. I know, He exhaled heavily. "Can I get you something? Water, coffee?" "I don't want anything from you except the truth," I said. "For once?" He nodded, sinking back into his chair at the table. "I told Megan I couldn't leave you." A surprising flare of anger shot through me. "How magnanimous. I didn't mean it like that." Owen looked genuinely distressed. "I told her I need to fix things with you. That I owe you the truth. A real conversation about what happens next. That I can't just abandon our marriage without..." "Without what?" I interrupted. "Without seeing if I'll forgive you? Take you back? Let you shuttle between your two families like some kind of modern-day bigamist? Without honoring what we've been to each other," he said quietly. "Without respecting the life we built." I laughed, a hollow sound. "The life we built? You mean the one where I thought we were working through our grief together, while you were starting a new family behind my back?" "It wasn't like that," he insisted. "I never planned any of this. Emma was a surprise. A 16-month-long surprise," I said flatly. "And Megan? Was she surprised when you kept coming back to see your daughter while telling your wife you were on business trips?" Owen looked down at his hands. "She thought I was going to leave you? After Emma was born? I let her believe that." The pieces clicked into place. "So you've been lying to both of us. Fantastic." "I didn't know how to choose," he admitted. "I love you, Liz. I've loved you for over a decade. But Emma, she's my daughter. And Megan has been raising her while I've been a part-time father at best." "Poor you," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "How difficult this must have been for you." "I'm not asking for sympathy." "What are you asking for, Owen?" I stood up, unable to stay still any longer. "Permission to keep living your double life? My blessing to visit your love child on weekends while you play husband here the rest of the time?" He flinched at the term love child, but I couldn't bring myself to care. "I'm asking for a chance to make this right," he said. "Or as right as it can be, given the circumstances." "And what does right look like to you?" I demanded, pacing now. "Because from where I'm standing, there's no version of this that doesn't end with me being utterly humiliated and heartbroken." Owen stood up too, taking a tentative step toward me. "We could try, I don't know, counseling. I could be honest about Emma, about my responsibilities to her. We could find a way forward that acknowledges she's part of my life now." I stared at him, incredulous. "You think I want to be your child's stepmother? After everything we went through trying to have our own?" "No, that's not what I meant." He ran his hands through his hair again, a gesture of frustration I'd seen countless times over the years. "I don't know what the answer is, Liz. I just know I don't want to lose you." "You already have," I said quietly. "The moment you decided to lie to me about your affair, about your child. You threw away 11 years of marriage. Please don't say that." He took another step toward me, his eyes pleading. "We can get through this. We've gotten through hard things before." Infertility is a hard thing, Owen. A medical condition neither of us could control. This? I gestured at the table full of evidence. This was a choice. A series of choices. Every time you went to see them. Every time you lied to me about where you were going. Every birthday. Every milestone of your daughter's life that you shared with another woman instead of your wife. I was a coward, he admitted, his voice breaking. I was afraid of hurting you more than you'd already been hurt. How noble of you to protect me, I said bitterly. Except you weren't protecting me, were you? You were protecting yourself. From having to face the consequences of your actions, Owen's face crumpled. Liz, please, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but you're right, I cut him off. You don't? We stood facing each other across the living room, the weight of his betrayal and almost physical presence between us. So what now? He asked finally. I took a deep breath. Now I pack the rest of my things and leave. You can stay here or go be with them. I don't care. Just like that? 11 years over? It was over the moment you decided to start another family without me, I said. You just didn't have the decency to tell me. Owen's eyes filled with tears. I still love you. If this is how you love, I want no part of it. I turned away from him, heading for the stairs. I needed to gather more clothes, my important documents, the few family heirlooms that were truly mine. What about the house? He called after me. Our accounts? The life we've built? I paused on the stairs, looking back at him. My lawyer will be in touch. As I moved through our bedroom, pulling suitcases from the closet, I heard him following me up the stairs. He hovered in the doorway, watching me methodically pack my life. I never meant for any of this to happen, he said, his voice small. I didn't look at him. And yet it did. What will you tell people? The question stopped me cold. I straightened up, turning to face him. Are you seriously worried about what our friends will think of you right now? No, He cut himself off, looking ashamed. That's not what I meant. I'll tell them the truth, I said, zipping up the first suitcase. That my husband has been living a double life. That he has a child with another woman. That he's been lying to me for almost 2 years. Owen winced. It sounds so ugly when you put it like that. It is ugly, Owen. What did you expect? He had no answer for that. I continued packing in silence, moving efficiently through the space that had once been our sanctuary. When I'd gathered everything I needed for now, I could come back for the rest later. I carried my bags downstairs. Owen followed, a shadow I couldn't shake. Where will you go? He asked as I loaded the bags into my car. Cassie's for now, I said, seeing no reason to lie. After that? I don't know. Can I call you? To discuss arrangements? I closed the trunk and turned to face him one last time. My lawyer will be in touch, I repeated. Liz, please. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Don't leave it like this. We were good once. We loved each other. Yes, I agreed, a sudden wave of grief washing over me. We did. I got into my car and started the engine. Through the window, I could see Owen standing in our driveway, tears streaming down his face. For a moment, I felt a pang of something. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. But a recognition of the shared history that was ending. I'm sorry, he mouthed through the glass. I nodded once, put the car in reverse, and drove away from the life I'd thought was mine. 1 year later, the gallery was crowded, voices and laughter mingling with the soft jazz playing over hidden speakers. My latest collection, Fracture and Repair, covered the walls in vibrant bursts of color against stark backgrounds. Abstracts that nonetheless told a very specific story to those who knew how to read it. These are incredible, Liz, said Diane, the gallery owner who'd taken a chance on my first solo show 2 years ago. Your best work yet, I smiled, taking a sip of my champagne. Pain is a powerful muse. Clearly, she agreed, her gaze moving to the centerpiece of the collection, a large canvas dominated by shattered fragments in blue and gold, painstakingly pieced back together with visible seams of crimson. The Japanese have a practice called kintsugi, I explained, though she already knew this. Repairing broken pottery with gold, honoring the breakage as part of the object's history, rather than something to disguise. Making the scars beautiful, Diane nodded. It's powerful. A young couple approached, asking questions about my technique. As I spoke with them, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the entrance to the gallery. Owen. He looked good, better than the last time I'd seen him, in our mediator's office 6 months ago, finalizing the details of our divorce. He'd lost weight, grown a neat beard. He was holding something in his hands, shifting nervously from foot to foot. I excused myself from the conversation and made my way toward him. "I wasn't sure you'd come," I said by way of greeting. I'd sent him an invitation more out of courtesy than expectation. "I almost didn't," he admitted. "I wasn't sure I'd be welcome." "It's a public event," I said with a small shrug. We stood awkwardly for a moment. Former lovers, now practically strangers. "Your work is amazing," he said finally, gesturing at the paintings surrounding us. "I always knew you had this in you." "Thank you." I took another sip of my champagne, unsure what else to say. "How have you been?" he asked. "Good," I said and meant it. "The new apartment is coming together. Teaching is going well. And obviously, the art," I gestured around us. "I'm glad," he said softly. "You deserve to be happy, Liz." The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. "How about you?" I asked, surprising myself with my genuine interest. "How are things with your family?" A shadow crossed his face. "Complicated. Megan and it didn't work out. We tried for Emma's sake, but—" "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and was even more surprised to realize I meant that too. "Don't be. It wasn't like what we had." He looked down at the object in his hands, a small package wrapped in simple brown paper. "Anyway, I have shared custody now. Emma's with me every weekend and 2 weeknights. She's incredible, Liz. Smart, funny, stubborn as hell. Like her father," I said with a small smile. He laughed softly. "Yeah." Another awkward silence fell between us. "I brought you something," he said, holding out the package. "A belated divorce present, I guess. Or maybe just an overdue apology." I took it, hesitating before unwrapping it. Inside was a small wooden box, beautifully crafted. When I opened it, I found a pair of tiny ceramic shoes, broken and carefully mended with gold seams. "Kintsugi. I remembered you talking about it years ago," Owen said, watching my face carefully. "How broken things can be made beautiful again. Different, but beautiful." I ran my finger over the delicate gold lines that held the tiny shoes together. "Thank you," I said quietly. "It's thoughtful. I wanted you to know that I understand now what I broke, that I'll never stop being sorry for it." He took a deep breath, "and that I'm glad to see you putting the pieces back together in your own way." I closed the box carefully, tucking it into my clutch. "We both are." He nodded, looking around at the crowded gallery. "I should go. Let you get back to your admirers." "Thank you for coming," I said. "And for this." Owen hesitated, then leaned in to kiss my cheek, a ghost of familiarity. "Be happy, Liz," he whispered. "That's all I want for you now." I watched him leave, weaving through the crowd toward the exit. There was an ache in my chest, but it was different now. Less raw, more like the phantom pain of a limb long gone. "Who was that?" asked Cassie, appearing at my elbow with a fresh glass of champagne for me. "History," I said, accepting the glass. She followed my gaze to Owen's retreating back. "Are you okay?" I considered the question carefully. "Yes," I said finally. "I think I am." "Good," she said firmly. "Because there's someone I want you to meet. New art professor at the university. Single, smart, and he hasn't stopped staring at your Phoenix Rising piece, or you, all night." I laughed, linking my arm through hers. "Cassie, I'm not ready for that." "Who said anything about ready?" she asked, grinning. "I'm just making introductions. The rest is up to you." As she led me across the gallery, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. The weight of small things, tiny shoes, broken promises, shattered dreams, had nearly crushed me. But here I was, still standing, still creating, still capable of laughter, still capable, perhaps, of beginning again. The man by my Phoenix Rising painting turned as we approached, his smile warm and curious. I felt a flutter of something that might someday become hope. "Dr. Renner?" Cassie said. "I'd like you to meet the artist, Elizabeth Foster." "Liz," I corrected, extending my hand. "Just Liz."
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.